Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this bill. I would love to speak today about the freedom of speech aspects and how important it is to be able to protect the freedom of speech so that people can engage in robust debates without fear of being hauled through processes and potentially hauled before the courts for their speech, as we're currently seeing happen in the UK for people who make silly posts on social media. But I won't speak about that today because I want to focus today on something that's a lot more relevant to my electorate of Blaine, which is the freedom of faith-based schools to be able to go about their business, employ teachers, which is, we all know, is hard enough to do in the Northern Territory, and teachers who align with their beliefs, their doctrines, so that they can educate the students that parents send to their schools in the expectation that the teachers and the school would have a faith-based approach, and that would be an intrinsic part of that education. And the freedom of those schools to be able to focus on delivering a faith-based education and a high-quality faith-based education without having to worry about accidentally stepping on a landmine and ending up in court because they didn't tick a box. So, Sacred Heart Catholic Primary School, which is a K-6 in the suburb of Woodruff in Palmerston. That's an absolutely fantastic primary school, and I do believe that the Chief Minister may have attended that school when she was a little whippersnapper. Absolutely amazing school. We're working through Emery Avenue has been in the news for not the best reasons over the last year, particularly last year, and we're slowly working through those issues. Unfortunately, last year under the previous government, they had an end-of-year dance that they had to cancel due to safety issues. I would love to be able to say that those issues are all in the past. We're not quite there yet, but we're in a much better place than we were last year. But they are a faith-based school. They have a Catholic church on the school grounds, Madam Speaker, and so they have regular masses there, and it's an integral part of school life that students go and attend Mass at the school, at the church on the grounds. And I've attended a couple of those Masses, as I believe the member for Brennan has, I think. And it's a very, very rich tapestry of life they have there at that school. Good Shepherd Lutheran School in the wonderful suburb of Grey for my colleague, the member for Drysdale. One of my good friends who unfortunately is no longer in the Territory. Her and her husband had to move away under the reign of terror of the previous government because they weren't able to sustain their lifestyle here. But she was a school teacher and she used to work at that school. She was an absolutely fantastic teacher. And every year at the start of the year, they have an open day where they welcome people from all over Palmerston and all over Darwin to come and enjoy the fetes and the stalls they put on. That's a great school. Palmerston Christian School and College, K through 12, which I believe is in the member for Nelson's electorate over in the suburb of Marlowe's Lagoon, just adjacent to my own. Fantastic local school, and I think they actually even host one of the churches that we have in Palmerston. Is that Zion? Zion, I think, yeah. So there's a very intimate relationship between that school and, again, a faith-based group. You know, the previous member for Blaine, I think, was a principal at that school many, many years ago before he was pre-selected to run for Blaine. MacKillop Catholic College, not in my electorate, in the electorate of Spilett, but a fantastic college. We had a large group of their Year 10s here today. I had the honour of accompanying them upstairs to meet the Chief Minister and take some photos. They were here in the gallery. I've sat with the principal of that school, and I was incredibly impressed by what an earnest, decent, and hard-working man of faith he was. This is someone who wrestles with many, many issues, and for his own safety has had to put CCTV in his own office so that he can be sure that if any allegations of impropriety come, that in his office everything is recorded so that for his own protection. And I won't go into too much detail because that's his story, but he's shared with me how he's wrestled with finding teachers and how hard it is to find teachers in the NT and how they navigate the tension between seeking people who align with the school's faith-based agenda versus the candidates of the highest quality. And I will come to how that is resolved later in my speech, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Outside of Palmerston, we have Marara Christian School, which I believe is another K through 12. Many of my friends have gone there over the years. That's not as much of a traditional Catholic school, but very, very high quality faith-based school nonetheless. Good Shepherd College over in Howard Springs for our 7 to 12s. O'Loughlin Catholic College, and I'm sure many, many other faith-based schools in the Darwin area and down the track that I haven't had the opportunity to get to know just yet. But all the schools that I've listed so far are in the Christian tradition, Mr. Deputy Speaker. But that's not the only faith-based religious tradition that we have in the Territory. We also have our wonderful and rich Islamic faith here in the Territory. I have a mosque right in my electorate in the suburb of Maldon, which is very rich, and every Friday they're there praying. They have regular feasts and celebrations in accordance with their calendar, and I've been along to Eid with other members of my colleagues, and they're very solid, hard-working people with a great deal of character and integrity. They also, the Islamic faith in Darwin, they have the Australian International Islamic College in Berrimah. That's a school. It's running there. I think they started with somewhere on the order of 32 students. I have to check up and see how many enrolments they're up to now. I hope they're doing well. I say all that to say that faith-based schools are everywhere in the Northern Territory, particularly out in our regional and remote areas, particularly on remote communities. And they are an integral part of the fabric of our society. Now, as a father of 3 boys, I want the best education for them that I can possibly get. Now, I've personally wrestled with the thought of, do I send them to a public school or to a faith-based school or a non-denominational private school? And for our family, personally, we settled on sending our kids to a local public school because we thought that it would be good for them to be exposed to, at the primary school level, to the hurly-burly of ideas. And for our particular circumstances, that was the decision that we made. But I understand that a lot of parents and a lot of families choose to send their kids to a faith-based school because in their consideration, they look at the fact that the school has an explicit faith-based agenda, which carries a whole lot of things with it. If anyone has ever read, the Sermon on the Mount, the sections of the New Testament where the prophet Jesus of Nazareth delivers that sermon, if you haven't ever read it, and if you think that religious people are full of hate, I encourage you to read it. Go and read it and try to find any hate in there. I've read it and I can't find any. It was only love. And I think in my discussions with faith-based schools, there is a lot of love. And parents who choose to send their kids to faith-based schools need to know that there will be a moral theme to their children's education that's not just about numeracy and literacy and history and all that good stuff that kids learn. That the school is free to be able to have an unapologetic embrace of its faith, of its religious principles. If it's a school that's founded on the Judeo-Christian tradition, that they'll be able to talk about Jesus without anyone being offended, that they'll be able to talk about, that the Christian tradition. If it's a Catholic school, I'm sure they'll talk about, the saints, and I'm not a Catholic myself, so I don't know what they talk about too much, so I won't go much further into that. But parents need to be sure that the faith, that if they send their children to a faith-based school, that a faith-based education will be part of what their children come away with. And that means that they need to be free to be able to choose the teachers that go there. Now, in my discussions with principals at faith-based schools, they are quite open. They don't want to exclude someone on the basis of a protected characteristic. They want the best teachers available who are willing to ascribe to the values of the school. But at the same time, they need to be safe that if they make a decision and someone has a protected characteristic, that they're not going to end up in court simply because they're a target. Faith-based schools these days, unfortunately, walk around with a great big fat target on their backs. And they need to be able to focus on education and running their school according to their faith the best they can, without having to worry about defending themselves in court if they choose the better candidate, but the other candidate had a protected characteristic and then makes a complaint, and then everything ends up somewhere. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I support this bill. I support the rights. I support strengthening the Anti-Discrimination Act to give certainty and security to parents and staff of faith-based schools in the Northern Territory. I commend the bill to the House.